Yeah, he's going live. We'll get an audio check. You're fine. Keep going.
All right, so thanks everybody for coming out. I know it's tough. I know the last few months have not been the best with having virtual meetings, but you know, it is what it is, and we have to follow the county ordinances that are out there. And you know, first and foremost, we really want to keep everybody safe, and we don't want, you know, I've had some people in my family have had it. It's no joke. I'm still convinced I had it because I was down for a couple of weeks, but whatever. That said, you know, a lot of the auctions, a lot of the swaps, and a lot of that stuff really been canceled as of late, just because of that. But due to the overwhelming success of the swap we had in August, we have decided to take the September auction that we have been able to find a safe way to make an auction happen. So we're just going to turn it into another parking lot trunk sale. So it turned out really well. We'll have a gigantic parking lot this time that, you know, park close, but don't, you know, don't park on the other end.
Can somebody tell me if the audio is okay?
Spread out, get comfortable, hang out for 4 or 5 hours and sell and talk and chat and just do whatever you want to do. But it should be a great just for everybody to get together and back, right? So,
yeah, we got Florida Aquatics.
Yep, we do have donations coming in from Florida Aquatic Nursery, so there'll be a lot of plants there on the swap table. As far as auction items, we'll probably do another silent auction that seemed to work fairly well and didn't require a whole bunch of logistics and moving people around and shuffling. So we'll do that. It'll probably end up being 2 separate silent auctions, just what we guess is the bulk of stuff that's going to show up. I don't think we'll have enough room to do one and do it all at one time. So we're going to phase that approach. We're going to do 2 separate ones. We'll have one that runs shortly after we start, and then once that's finished, we'll start up another one once we get it coordinated. That is on the 27th. Starts at what we say 10. Auction usually starts about 10:30, so we're saying 10 to 2. If it goes a little longer, no one's booting us out, so you know, don't feel obligated to disappear. What we say the 19th, Michiana is having is that a swap?
It's an auction.
Auction. So Michiana's doing the auction. Joe knows about it. He's going.
I'm going.
So there you go. There's a couple people. If you want a little bit more info, I know nothing about it. I feel like. What you got?
Got a question.
The location of the 27th.
Oh, the location. So it's on the south side of town. The address is posted online. It's 3145 East Thompson Road. It's look for a big event hall called the Atrium. It's right in that parking lot. It's a big kind of center parking lot.
About what, 7 minutes away from here?
Yeah, if that. It's probably 3 or 4, just over this way.
Where Thompson Road is supposed to get trimmed.
That is true. Yeah, we'll need to add that to the note. You gotta do a little bit of an end around because they're doing some road construction, putting in a roundabout. Trying to think. I thought there was something else. I saw. Make sure you go on the Facebook page if you guys are kind of theming for some good presentations. I saw a really good one. I thought it was maybe it's Missouri.
Yeah.
Are they putting on? They've got a really.
Yeah,
That's a must see, especially being virtual. You can just log in and go see it. You just watch it. So make sure you get on our page. I know it's posted on the page. Joe, can you try to find the link and maybe bump that to the top?
Yep.
We'll bump it at the top for everybody. With that said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Haley and let her talk about Ropefish.
real quick, they just announced the ACA is going to be in St. Louis next year too.
Oh, ACA in St. Louis. If you guys haven't been to an ACA, they can be a fun time. As long as you don't host it, right, Joe?
What?
So they're fun as long as you don't have to
I still
host
have a headache from that one.
it. I feel fine. I've recovered well. All right. So now, Haley,
Yes.
let you have at it.
How's it going? How's everybody doing? You guys all? Everybody good? Okay, so if you don't know me, my name's Haley, and I work for Aquatic Arts currently. I used to be Lucas Brett's personal assistant, and I keep Ropefish. So I don't know if you guys have a favorite fish. I have a favorite fish. Ropefish. Ropefish now, Ropefish today, Ropefish tomorrow, Ropefish always. I really want to be the first person to successfully breed this fish. So far, I have not, but I have done a ridiculous amount of research on this fish, so I got some things to show you. Latin name for ropefish is Erpicthus calabaricus. It is the only fish of its kind. So where you have like different kinds of guppies, different kinds of cichlids, there's only one ropefish. It's just the ropefish. So basics on the ropefish. This is a Central West African species. Why isn't this video playing? Oh my gosh, here we go. Back it up. Back. And we're going to play the video. The video. What did you do to my computer, Bobby?
I didn't do it.
Uh-huh. I see that. There we go. Okay. Ropefish. So, Central and West African species. It is actually listed as, what is it? Near endangered. What is that word they use? Vulnerable. Vulnerable in West Africa, and it's endangered in Central Africa. All of the ropefish that are in our hobby are wild caught. They have never been successfully tank bred. So if you get a ropefish in, it's wild caught. Doesn't matter where it came from. They took it out of the wild. Ropefish live in like reedy substrates and areas, lots of like really shallow areas in Cameroon to Benin. They're known from like 5 locales. There's less than 10 locales actually from where they come from, and their habitat is in trouble. There are palm fields, there are oil fields, there is civil unrest. They are not doing a really good job of keeping that environment healthy, so I want to try to breed them so we can stop taking them out of the wild. Food choices. Ropefish pretty much eat any kind of meat that you give them. However, in the wild, they specifically eat freshwater prawns. There was a study done in the Cross River by a scientist that I've actually been in contact with on Facebook, and they collected like 500 specimens, did necropsies on them. 80% of their gut bacteria or their gut contents was prawns. So what I've done is I actually breed Neocaridina in my pond that the ropefish then snack on. So my breeding project. So when I found the ropefish and decided I wanted to breed it, I started doing research. And that research started with me starting a YouTube channel called Oddball Aquatics so that I could document what I was doing. I had about 3 subscribers. Nobody paid attention to me, and my videos were horrible, but it got better. Then I started digging online. And I dug and I dug and I dug. And I found an article in Practical Fish Keeping magazine from 1996 about a man called Rolf Bretz. And Rolf Bretz, not B-R-E-T-S, B-R-I-T-Z, Bretz, he actually bred his ropefish kind of by accident. He had them in a 120-liter tank, and he had a temperature swing in that tank, and the ropefish bred out. And then he subsequently lost all of the fry at 19 weeks. Doesn't know why, couldn't tell me any more information. I wrote an email to Practical Fish Keeping magazine to try to figure out, the specifics of what he had done. They didn't really have any information. There was also an account that was on Facebook, so I follow a lot of different groups on Facebook, and anytime somebody mentions the word ropefish, it pops up. So there was a guy that had said, "Help, I just found these in my tank," and he had baby ropefish. And so I emailed him and I talked to him for a length of time trying to figure out what he had done. And basically what he had done was nothing. And by nothing, I mean he hadn't changed the water, he hadn't done top-offs, he had done nothing. His tank had evaporated to 50%. He had his ropefish in with about 6 full-size angelfish. I have no idea how he did it or what happened, but he also lost the fry. So once I actually get my ropefish to breed, fry raising is then going to become the problem. The other thing I did was I emailed a Nigerian exporter, and I had him send a video camera phone with his collector out to where they are collecting the ropefish. So this is a video that I got back, and these videos were filmed on an absolute potato, so I'm sorry that they are completely fuzzy. But this is the trap that they use to catch the ropefish in the wild. It's a reed trap. They sit around, they build a bunch of them, and then they go take them out to this environment. So I also had them take pictures of where they were capturing the ropefish at. This is the Cross River. It's an estuary that's like a shoot off of the Cross River. They don't like to tell you exactly where it is because that's their collecting spot and they don't want other people there. But as you can see, this is all shallow marsh-like vegetation. The ropefish are not out in the middle of that water. They are on the side, up in those reeds, where they can basically get out of water. I also made contact with that Nigerian researcher that I was telling you about. His name is up there. I cannot pronounce it. I've never had to say it to him. I've never heard him say it. So it's there, but I couldn't say it for you. But he did, and that's them putting the ropefish that they collected into a bucket that they'll then take to the exporter. He did a research study, and in that research study, he said that the fingerlings, which is what they call the fry of a ropefish, were actually found deeper. And so I questioned him further, what did you mean by deeper when you said that in this study? And he said, they're down in the mud. And I said, by in the mud, do you mean that they hang out on the surface of the mud, or they're in the mud like you have to dig them out? And he told me, you have to dig them out. So I decided I was going to start getting some ropefish in and studying them. So this is my first ropefish that I got in. I had him imported in through, I think it's Aquarium World in Lafayette, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
The 10-gallon there was his quarantine tank, and then I have that 36-gallon bow front, which was going to be my observation tank. I wanted to watch them and watch what they did to try to figure out how I was going to go about breeding them. One of the things they tell you about ropefish, and probably the thing that you know the most about ropefish, is what? They jump, right? Jumpers, you got to have a tight lid. They're going to try to get out of the tank. So a very prominent fish keeper once told me to be the fish. And if you don't know who said that, it was Eric Bodrock. And so I tried to be the fish. And I said, why would I want to jump out of the tank? There's two reasons fish generally jump out of a tank. One, they are in a position where they jump from puddle to puddle because of a dry season. So I started researching the area where ropefish come and the weather on that, in that particular area. I check it every day. It's set up on my phone just like you check the weather at home. I check the weather in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, they have a wet and a dry season. However, the place where the ropefish come from basically never goes dry. January is their driest month, and it still rains every single day. The other thing that's interesting about the area that they come from, it has the most lightning per capita of any place on Earth. So I'm trying to be the fish. So if the water's not drying up, why am I jumping out of the water? To get food. That's the only other reason fish jump. Think of an arowana. It jumps out of the water to get food. So they jump out of the water. And interestingly enough, a 1984 study on how they actually breathe found that they breathe about 70% atmospheric oxygen. So they can breathe through their gills, they can breathe through their skin, but most of the time they're breathing air. And they can survive completely out of water for up to 8 hours without having a problem. As long as they don't dry out, they're fine. So if I'm a jumping fish, I'm going to jump out to get food. I can survive out on land for 8 hours, whatever. I want to get out of the water. That's why they're jumping, because they want to get out of the water. They want to go outside, look for some stuff, pull it back in, swallow it. That's what they want to do. So, ropefish breeding. At this point, I decided I'm ready. I'm going to start trying to breed these fish. I need to figure out how they breed. Ropefish breeding is parallel courtship. They swim next to each other, and then when the male is trying to entice the female, he does the same thing polypterus do when they try to breed. He bumps her with his head, and he says, hey, I'm ready. And if she's ready and they're ready, she will lay an egg on his anal fin, and he will throw it into the vegetation, scatters it. So it's an egg scattering fish. Their eggs will hatch after 70 hours and turn into a larval form that attaches to vegetation. And 22 days after that, their yolk sac, and this is the information that you get on Wikipedia when you Google ropefish breeding, okay? So 22 days after that, they're free swimming, they've absorbed their yolk sac, they start eating. That doesn't really line up with my information that I've gotten straight from Nigeria that says that the babies are in the mud. So I'm trying to reconcile those two things because I don't think they attach to the vegetation. I think they lay them and they burrow themselves into the mud and they eat detritus worms and things like that until they're ready to come out. The other thing about ropefish breeding is they don't breed until they're 15 years old. This is a long-lived fish. It will live for 20 years plus, and it's not going to breed until it hits 15, which is my other problem with breeding, because how am I supposed to know how old a wild-caught fish is? So every time I import fish, I'm like, will you please send me the biggest fish you have? Because I need them to be old. I don't have 9 years to wait around for these fish to get themselves ready. So still trying to reconcile those things. But I decided I'm ready, and I'm going to build a pond. So I decided to build a pond, and when I thought about building this pond, I knew I wanted it to be indoors. I knew I had to get it to 82 degrees Fahrenheit in the water, and I knew that I needed a lid because I didn't want them jumping all of the way out. I just wanted them jumping on the land portion of the pond. So me and my dad got together. We bought, I got it on Craigslist, at one of those preform ponds where it's, like a solid, rigid structure. And we built a box around it. And we put a lid on it, and we sealed it with Flex Seal. If you're ever going to build a pond inside out of wood, don't seal it with Flex Seal. Don't do that. This pond is warped. This pond is falling apart. It's still functional, but my next pond is going to have to be a little bit different because this was not a good idea. See the Flex Seal? Horrible idea. That did not stop the water because that pond actually rains. The water is hot enough and it is enclosed enough that when the water evaporates, it goes up on the top lid and it rains back down. It's 100% humidity in there. I'm actually growing plants in that pond outside of the water, still in their submerged form. So for instance, water wisteria, if you grow it in the water, it looks different than if you grow it out of the water. I can grow it out of the water in that pond and it looks the same as if you grow it underwater because it's 100% humidity inside of that pond. We put viewing panels on the top because I was like, I need to be able to watch them and study them and see what they're doing. That didn't work out either. That's the other thing I have to overcome in this project is that I can't see my ropefish. They're in a pond that is fully planted and they're just in there. I can't see what they're doing. I can't see if there's eggs. That doesn't really help me either. Are you about done, Dad, screwing that in? I got more stuff to say. It's time for the next slide. My gosh, he takes a long time. So there's my kid. There's my pond. They played with it, and then we put the preform in it. And then it was time to escape the pond. So what kind of substrate do you think I should use for a pond where I'm trying to breed something where I think its babies bury themselves in mud? Mud. There's no cap on my substrate. That is just dirt. It is topsoil. I put it in there. I do not recommend it for a display tank, but if you're trying to get super natural, mud. Can you put the mud in there? Thank you. So the pond has topsoil in the bottom. It also has topsoil all around the outside edge here where I've planted plants and it's all grown in so that they can jump out. And this is why. Ropefish come out of the water. And they don't come out of the water like you would think a snake or something that's terrestrial comes out of the water. They come out of the water and then they go back in the water because they can't actually swallow outside of the water. So they jump out and they jump back in. And everybody told me, you're going to come back and your ropefish is going to be dried up on the edge of that pond because they're never going to find their way back to the water. To which I respond, if you have the ability to get out of the water, shouldn't you have the ability to get back in? And they do. They get back in. So, to date, no breeding that I know of has happened in my pond. Age being one of the big factors, and also I can't see them. So if they have laid eggs in there, I had no ability to pull them because they lay black eggs. Black eggs on mud in a fully planted pond. No idea. So my next idea is I'm going to musical fish my fish. I'm going to build a second pond, and I'm going to move them back and forth to see if there are eggs, if the fry will raise up without the parents in there to predate on them. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build what's called a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage blocks out electromagnetism. One of the things that's interesting about a ropefish is they have an organ on their face called the ampullary of Lorenzini. This is the same organ that sharks have that they use to find food in the wild. So they can detect the electromagnetism of another species or another animal or whatever. So I started thinking about my ropefish and I was like, if I had an organ that allowed me to detect electromagnetism and I lived out in the middle of Africa where there was no 5G towers and no nothing, that'd be pretty peaceful. But then if you brought me into the middle of civilized society where we have giant 5G towers everywhere and I'm turning my microwave on every 15 minutes, what would that sound like to you? And to me, it sounds like it would sound a little bit like blaring techno music at a rave. And I would be disoriented if I was in a place where they were blaring techno music and it was a rave. So I think they're a little bit disoriented because of that. Everybody says ropefish are derpy eaters and they kind of look like they're blind or they don't see very well. My hypothesis would be that they have interference happening and they don't really know what's going on. So more ponds, easier visuals, older fish, and possibly a Faraday cage is where I'm headed. This is what the pond currently looks like. It's fully planted. This plant back here is Brazilian pennywort. There are anubises that are growing out of the water. There's pearlweed all around the outside edge. That plant that's in the center of it is red tiger lotus. It grows like crazy. And there's a bunch of water wisteria on the far side of the pond. I also have peace lilies that are growing inside of there. They're actually bonsaiing themselves because of the lid. They can't grow up, so they're wrapping around themselves. One of the coolest things about my pond is I get to experiment with a lot of different plants and how they grow because it's 100% humidity. So I can basically treat it like a terrarium and I can play with a bunch of different plants. So let's talk about how ropefish changed my life. Before I started this ropefish breeding project, I was probably the most anxious person you would ever meet. I would never talk to anybody that didn't talk to me directly. You might have seen me if you've been part of the club for a while. I used to sit in the very back and not talk to anybody. Hence this picture from the back of the room at our old place. Because I was nervous. I was scared. I didn't know if people liked me ever. I was always afraid of everything, always overthinking situations. It's why I didn't ever go anywhere and do anything. Because, well, what if the car breaks down? What if this? What if that? My whole life. And when I started this ropefish project, I knew I was going to have to talk to people because I was never going to get any information unless I spoke to people that I didn't know. So I decided I was going to talk. And I decided I was going to talk to that guy because he had plants. And I knew he had plants, and his name's Lucas Bretz. He's sitting right there. I knew he had plants, and I knew he knew about plants, and I knew that I had to open my mouth and talk to him. So I walked up to him with my little notebook like this, with my brown hair, my hoodie up, and I was like, hey, can I show you some plants and maybe see if you know what they are and how I can replicate them? Because what I really wanted to do was replicate that video that I showed you that I got out of Nigeria. And I didn't know how to do that because I couldn't import those plants. So I had to find different plants. So I opened my mouth and I spoke. And because I opened my mouth and I spoke, I then got this message on YouTube or on Facebook from Mr. Lucas Bretz. He needed help in his fish room. And I was like, okay, I can come help you in your fish room. And at this point, I was still working in flooring. I still had brown hair, didn't talk to anybody, still kind of shy. And then Mr. Bretz decided that he needed somebody to change water at his house all the time, full time, 40 hours a week, changing 300 tanks full of water. And my crazy self said yes, because I had decided at that point I wasn't going to turn myself away from opportunities. I was going to live right now, do what I could right now, and move forward with my life from right now with my mission to breed ropefish, whatever that brought my way. Didn't care what came my way, just was going to go with whatever happened, be open, talk to anybody, and not be afraid. Then I got to go to Dallas Aquashella. And when we were deciding to go, or when I found out that Lucas was going to Dallas Aquashella, I decided I'm going all out. I'm going to be a rainbow dragon, and I'm going to talk to every single person that I can, and I am not going to be afraid because I'm going to make some connections that are going to get me somewhere in life instead of just sitting in the back, not talking to anybody, not doing anything with my life, and selling floor. You might recognize some of those people in that picture. It's a little bit fuzzy, but that's like all the YouTubers from Aquashella. And then I made new friends because I got to go everywhere. In this picture, this is Greg Woodstock, the pond guy. He builds ponds all over the country. He's super, super great guy. He actually owes me a pond. So if you're watching, Greg, you owe me a pond. Because him and Ed, the pond professor, which is his freshwater lemnologist that he works with, took a liking to my ropefish project. Because the other thing I do everywhere I go is I talk about ropefish. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're talking to me about cichlids and you're like, look at my guppies. I'm like, hey, have you ever heard of a ropefish? Like, look how cool my ropefish is. Let me tell you about ropefish. That's all I ever do. Because if anybody has any information, I'm going to find it. Second picture where I'm with the police officer is not because I'm getting arrested. That's because I made friends with the fine ladies at the Bucks County Aquarium Society, and there was a goldfish swim. And I don't know if you guys know what a goldfish swim is, but that's when a community center decides they're going to dump 1,000 goldfish into their pool and have children catch them with their hands. So we went to protest, hence the cop. We weren't allowed anywhere near the event, but we talked to some people. We were behind a police line. There was a sniper on the roof. Yes, ma'am? That is Big Rich. Yeah, that's Big Rich's. This is an epic mullet. This is an 18-year-old mullet, and we were comparing hair lengths. Greg thought that was funny, but yeah, that's Big Rich from Ohio Fish Rescue. I also got to go there as one of the opportunities that presented itself that I could have said, no, I've got a kid, I got to stay home, I got to do all this. But no, I was like, yeah, let's go on a whim. Let's whatever we want to do. And I got to meet Big Rich, and I got to swim in his pool with his gar, and I got to see Pittsburgh, which is my favorite fish there. That's their big Maboo puffer. And Big Rich is actually going to be doing a live stream with me on Sunday. Because when you open your mouth and you make friends with anyone that will talk to you, those are the opportunities that present themselves to you. So, got new jobs from the Ropefish. This is me working at Lucas's house, and I am feeding the fry rack, which is one of the jobs that I was gifted later on in my employment at lrbaquatics.com because somebody's a little bit finicky with his tetracolor tropical granules, but that's okay. The other thing that happened was right before the start of this whole we can't see each other anymore thing, I went to Maryland to the Big Fish Deal. And when I got to Maryland, I was supposed to be hosting an aquascaping contest that I had set up to try to raise money for Tracy of Ohio Fish Rescue, Big Rich's wife. I was trying to raise some money, so I got some tanks donated, and we did an aquascaping contest. And apparently, I did a very good job announcing the aquascaping contest. I did not aquascape. I'm not an aquascaper. But the club came up to me and they said, hey, will you run our auction tonight? I'm not an auctioneer. I've never done that before. This is a cichlid club. I don't know anything about cichlids, but you know what I did? I said, yes, I will do that. And I got my friend Mike here from the fish tank barn to read all the names off the bags so I didn't look like a dork. And I had a great time. And I made a lot of money for that club because I didn't know how much those cichlids were worth. So I was just driving the price right up. But I'd have never known that I was an auctioneer if I hadn't opened my mouth and done it. And did I make mistakes? I absolutely made mistakes. I was going down in number on bids at some point, and somebody had to correct me and be like, hey, you need to go up, not down. Oh, okay. But yeah, you're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. But I said yes, and I got that opportunity. And I became a rainbow dragon. So at Dallas Taco Shell, I had a rainbow outfit. It glows in the black light. It's fantastic. I got to go to ton of different clubs. Got to go to Connecticut. I got to go to Chicago a couple of times, running booths for this dork over here. And I also ended up getting a job at Aquatic Arts because they knew who I was. They knew I needed a job. And they were like, hey, come work for us. So that's how I live my best life. All day, every day. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. Doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm super tired. If you send me a message and you're like, hey, there's this fish thing in Chicago tomorrow. Do you want to go? I'll be like, hang on, let me figure it out. Yes. Because that's all it takes. That's all it takes to do the things that you want to do in life. So all those things that are holding you back, all those things where you're like, I've got to be up early tomorrow. I've got to do this. I got to this much laundry. And what if the car? And it's just do it. Just do what you want to do right now and don't worry about what happened before. There's really no need to worry about what's going to happen next week because it's not here yet. And when it gets here, we'll worry about it. But until then, just live right now. That's what helps me in life. That's what helps me beat my anxiety. Because if I had spent 3 hours before this talk thinking about what am I gonna say, what am I gonna do, how are are there gonna be people there? I don't even know. I would have got myself all worked up, and I would have had no fun for 3 hours just to come in here and everything go perfectly fine. So instead of that, I played with my kid, and I cleaned a fish tank, and I trimmed a fish tank. I brought you the trimmings because that's all I had time to bag up. But trimmed a fish tank, got in my car, drove up here. No anxiety, no worries. Came up here in front of all you people, have never done this before, and gave a talk. So always, always, always living right now. Not 20 minutes from now, not 20 minutes ago, right now. And sometimes you catch your lotus blooming. Yeah. I had to convince my husband to set up a time lapse on a camera while I was at work to get that shot. I was so proud of him. So, does anyone have any questions about ropefish or living your best life or this dork or aquatic arts or anything of that nature? Ask me anything. Joe.
How can you tell male from female?
Male ropefish has a larger anal fin than a female. So if you're looking at the fish, they've got that little anal fin on the bottom. If you basically see nothing, it's a female. If you see that anal fin and it's there and thick, that's a male. You can also count the spines. I don't recommend it. It takes a long time.
What are you using the light for? Is that natural light?
That is not natural light. That is actually another thing that happens when you open your mouth and you say things and you ask for things. The 240-gallon tank at Lucas's house runs what? T8? T5. And he had 2 of them on there, and the thing was constantly green water, so he decided to take one down. And I said, "Can I have that?" And he gave it to me.
How big is one lobster?
Supposedly only 18 inches. I've got some in my pond. So there's 8 ropefish that are in my pond currently, and they are all of 18 inches and as thick as like good sized dry erase marker. They're pretty thick.
Do you think about trying to simulate the lightning?
I do simulate the lightning. That's another thing that comes up. Anytime we have a thunderstorm, if I'm not at home, I'm on the phone to my husband, or if I am at home, I have an AI prime light, which actually has a lightning feature on it. And anytime it rains, thunderstorms, or anything around our house, I'm popping that sucker on top of the pond and turning the lightning up to 1,000. So it looks like a rave in my back room. I don't know if it's worked yet. I'm still working on that. I don't know if my ropefish are old enough. Yes.
What kind of water do they?
They are in tap water, or not tap, it's well water. I have a well, but the parameters that they need are the same for most African fish. It's a hard water fish. So TDS usually around 280 to 300, pH is 8.2 to 8.4, 82 degrees. Yeah.
So if that guy bred his ropefish when he had like 40% of his water missing,
Mm-hmm.
he had it in hard water,
Mm-hmm.
then if you have electricity or whatever with that hard water and that conductivity,
Mm-hmm.
could have played a big role in that as far as the saturation of that water.
My guess is his water increased pretty hardcore in hardness, letting it evaporate that much and become that small of a volume. And that mixed with the fact that he hadn't touched that tank in forever. Plus, he probably had some really old rope fish. I'm not really sure. The guy had zero information for me. He didn't know his parameters. He didn't know what he was feeding them flake or something. I don't know. He was one of those people that just doesn't track any of that. Obviously, doesn't do water changes either. So.
Because I know that seasonal stressing like that trigger.
Yep, and I've done some letting it evaporate, but I'm not ballsy enough to let it evaporate to half. I feel like that's rough.
Did he have pictures of the fingerlings?
He did have pictures of the fingerlings. They are not. Yeah, they were super small. He had squished one of them trying to get it out to take the picture of it, and he moved them all. So that's the other thing that he did, is instead of leaving them in that tank, he moved them all to a different tank, and that is where they then perished.
Can you make the entire tank as something safer like a crab?
It's a thought. I'm trying to figure out whether I go tank or whether I go another pond and try to put a viewing window in it.
Underwater camera.
Underwater camera, I've done that. My dad has one of those snake cams for your sink, where you can snake down in a sink, see what's down in there. I've done that. Didn't see anything.
ATM.
Eh. Oh, yeah. Contact that. That'd be a good idea. That's not a bad idea. I'm gonna write that down. ATM. They're not gonna help me, but I'll call them. I'll call anybody who thinks they can come up with something. Like, I am not afraid. I am not afraid to ask for help. I am not afraid to ask for y'all's help. If y'all like all of these ideas, bring them on, because that's how I figure this thing out.
Plywood, fiberglass.
Yep, that's the other thing. I've got a buddy that wants to do a fiberglass one. I just haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. The other issue is space. This pond takes up my entire back room. And I already have 14 other tanks in my house, so my floor is eventually going to fall into my basement, so I'm probably going to have to start putting the ponds in the basement. What are you going to do? Or it's going to put itself in the basement.
Research EMT outfits.
Okay.
EMT, electromagnetic, that's where you find this information. I was the EMT.
Yeah?
I was one of the EMTs.
So you know how to build a Faraday cage?
I built a Faraday cage.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk about that.
Anybody mention a Faraday cage in an aquarium?
Oh, I'm going to put a pond in a Faraday cage by the end of next year. I tell you what, I'm doing it, because if that's the thing that's holding me back, if that's the only thing holding me back, I mean, I'm shutting off the phones. I'm pulling the microwave. TV? No, I'm sorry. My husband plays Xbox. That's in the trash. But I can't get around the giant 5G towers that are everywhere. So even if I throw the Xbox away, it's not going to help. You think that would, because it's underground? Think that would help a little bit? Magnets?
No.
I don't think that'll stop it. You got to build the full Faraday cage. You gotta put the tinfoil hat on them. I'm gonna get them a full tinfoil hat each. Yeah, Tom.
You have like dealers out at any of the rescues for like the bigger, older ropefish.
Big Rich is supposed to pay attention when he gets ropefish, but he got a little one the other day, gave it to somebody else. I gave him a real talking to for that, but it was little, so I wasn't too worried about it. I do have a current standing order with the Nigerian importer we have at Aquatic Arts for 10 singly bagged extra large ropefish. So if they come into that exporter, I will be getting them. But so far that hasn't come in yet. And the last time it came in, they sent little ones, and they were all in the same bag, and I was pretty mad about it. Because it's kind of hard to specify that you want a 15-year-old wild-caught fish. It's a hard order. What? Can you eat a ropefish? I don't recommend it. It's probably not a lot of food. I got an African knifefish you can eat. No, it's not an African knifefish. It's an Asian featherback. My bad. I already made that mistake. Anybody else? If you're going to get a ropefish and you don't want to build a pond, give them a turtle dock. Does the same thing. Gives them somewhere to get out of the water. You can also put isopods in there. They like to eat those. That's a roly-poly if you don't know what an isopod is. I have those in my pond, plus springtails. They actually jump out of the water and eat them.
You just stole my question.
Oh.
I was going to ask, why do they crawl in the water? What do they eat?
They're eating isopods. Yeah, isopods. I really would like to figure out how to get a softer bodied insect in there that's not going to destroy it or take over that they could eat.
How about small critters?
See, I thought about crickets, but then I remembered why I got out of reptiles. Because crickets are loud and they get everywhere. Generally in their natural habitat, they're eating freshwater prawns, which are a different species of Neocaridina. It's a larger species that I can't get. Is the majority of what they're eating. But other than that, it's like small crustaceans, worms, bugs. I've fed them earthworms. I've fed them beef heart. They'll eat anything that's meaty. They'll eat tilapia. They'll eat shrimp. They will get out competed for food though. So if you're gonna put them in a tank with anything else, don't put them with a fast eater because they will absolutely get out competed for food. Because they're super slow and derpy eaters. And they suction feed. So it's just, they suck it in. Am I dying?
No, yeah.
There's feedback.
Lots of it.
So loud.
Yeah.
We need a Faraday cage in here. That would help. Anybody else have any questions before we move on to whatever Bobby's gonna do next? No? Yes? You guys gonna live your best lives?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, I know you are.
All right, we're gonna take 5 minutes. Everybody, do a bio break. Do whatever you gotta do.
Did it last?
Go ahead and turn off.
It lasted.